New Mexico's coaches. Be a great coach by coaching beyond the game. The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and in our communities. Students that participate in interscholastic activities attain higher grades, higher graduation rates, and higher wages. Responsible for the North-South All-Star Games, statewide Coaches Award Program, and providing multiple professional development opportunities for New Mexico's coaches. Be a great coach by coaching beyond the game. The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and in our communities. Students that participate in interscholastic activities attain higher grades, higher graduation rates, and higher wages. Responsible for the North-South All-Star Games, statewide Coaches Award Program, and providing multiple professional development opportunities for New Mexico's coaches. Be a great coach by coaching beyond the game. The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and in our communities. Students that participate in interscholastic activities attain higher grades, higher graduation rates, and higher wages. Responsible for the North-South All-Star Games, statewide Coaches Award Program, and providing multiple professional development opportunities for New Mexico's coaches. Be a great coach by coaching beyond the game. The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel.
Opportunity to work with coaches a lot. And the one thing I know about good coaches is that they are constantly pouring into others. They're always looking for ways to make their athletes better, their other coaches better. And as a result, sometimes what you find with coaches is they can get worn out. They can get off track. They can sometimes feel a little bit drained. And one of the things I love to do is I love to work with leaders to help make them, more focused, more energized, more motivated, more passionate, more just better ability to go out and cast vision and get more results. And so today is going to be, it's all about you. But the one cool thing is if you learn the things we're going to talk about today, these things are transferable to your athletes. Meaning if you teach them these habits, it will radically increase the quality of their results and lives. But it starts with you. Because if I were to go in and talk to your athletes about this and I didn't have coaches buy-in, there's a really good chance that we wouldn't get the results that we wanted. And so today is going to be entitled Flip the Script. And you'll understand why in a second. But I really want to be able to teach you just 4 habits, not just to increase, but radically increase your productivity and potential. And the one thing I've learned is that a lot of times it's little shifts that you make. The most effective people on the planet do little things remarkably well, and over time, those things just compound and they turn into something really extraordinary. So I want to start with this. This is a picture of Mount Airy. It's in Anacortes, Washington. It's where I'm from. And when I was in high school, I used to run this thing. I wanted to win state championships, national championships, and this was a mountain that challenged me, and I knew that. And people don't understand this who are maybe not from Washington, but when you're in Washington and you run 1.5 miles to a mountain, it's like running 1.5 miles of mini mountains to get to a big mountain. And so when I would run this thing, I would get there, and I'd get about 1/4 of the way up, and my legs would start to burn. And I'd feel that. And I love speaking to coaches and athletes because they know what I'm talking about. And I'd keep going. I'd get about halfway up. My feet would start to ache. My back would be just hurting. My lungs would be on fire. And in my head, that voice would say, hey, Coyte, take a break. It's cool. Nobody will know. But I always knew that I would know. And in the moments when I needed to step up, those would be the moments that would count. So I would stop having that conversation. You just need to go away. And I'd keep running. And I'd get about 75 to 85% of the way up. And all of a sudden, I wouldn't say I got a second wind and started sprinting because my legs were like jello. But I'd start to get excited because I knew I was getting closer to the top. And at the top of this mountain, you'd get up there, and all of a sudden, there'd be a right turn you'd take, and it would start to clear out, and you go by these trees, and all of a sudden the trees would start to disappear, and you'd get out to the outside, and the view was absolutely extraordinary. Just extraordinary. Like, take your breath away. You might be saying, Coyte, why are you telling me this? Because I'm telling you this because with people who are bold enough to set a big goal and to step up and go out and take on a challenge that other people aren't willing to take and push through those barriers, inevitably, you end up eventually, maybe not with that goal, but with something else, getting to a point where you get to the top and the view is absolutely extraordinary. But that's not the only reason I tell you that, and it may not even be the most important reason I tell you that. I tell you this also because some people are the same way, and I'm sure you can relate to this, where you're just around them and they're just extraordinary and you know it. They just lift you up. They make you better. I can count on my hand the number of people who have done that, but I remember them, and I will always remember them. And the thing that I challenge you today is to strive to become that type of person. And that's really where we're starting from. It's from that place. And that will lead us really well into the first slide that we have here. And the first thing I wanted to say is this. I have an idea. No matter who I talk to, let me do this first. I want to first do a background to just tell you a little bit more about myself, and then I'll transfer in. But just to tell you a little bit about myself, so you know where I'm coming from. Because I'm going to talk to you about performance and productivity. And you might be sitting here going, well, what do you know about that? And here are some of the things that have really helped me arrive at this point. First off, I had a chance with athletic performance. I was very fortunate to have amazing coaches, an amazing sports system. And I had a chance in high school to win 3 state championships. I was second my freshman year. I won 3 national championships, made 3 world teams. And I had incredible coaches. I mean, I had a chance to go to Colorado Springs and train with Olympic coaches, and they were talking about mindset, mentality. But, you know, I also had a coach who wasn't on any of those world teams, and he was the best coach that I ever had. And we did all kinds of these things, like writing our goals down every single day. And we would do visualization. And we would get to the end of the practice, and we'd be dead tired, and he'd tell us to lay down, and he'd tell us to start breathing in our nose and out our mouth. And he'd tell us to clear our minds and then picture ourselves at competition. And I was like, this stuff is really weird. Like, I'm about to fall asleep. But what I didn't know is he was doing meditation. And he was doing visualization combined with meditation, an incredibly just powerful skill set. And as a result, I got to wrestle the best I was able to wrestle. So I tell you, it comes from experience in being in the trenches with this stuff. The second thing is my PhD specialization. It was in the area of sport marketing and management. But a lot of my research had to do with branding and culture. You know, how do you go out and build a really extraordinary culture that has a lot of energy? And what I learned, as I talked about this last night, is it all comes down to leadership and a leader's ability to cast vision and to step up and show up every single day and get people on board. And so I learned a lot about these types of things. I mean, values and your vision have a lot to do with performance. There's a huge overlap between the two. When you get the right values, you get the right performance. Those things go together. And then the final thing is what I do now. I walked away from a career as a college professor to pursue my dream of being an author, coach, and speaker, really because I looked around and I thought there's a lot of people out there who want to be better or who are not happy with their lives, who want better, but they don't know how. And I thought, well, I can fill that gap. I'm crazy passionate about that. I wake up every single day and I try to find ways to help people be more productive so they can get the results in lives that they really, really want. And so in terms of what I do, just so you know, I'm a keynote speaker. So I travel across the United States talking to coaches associations, talking to business associations, talking to corporate groups, and I do this on a very consistent basis. I'm also a coach and a trainer. So I work with leaders. I have an all-in coaching club where I have leaders that I coach. I coach coaches. I really enjoy that because it allows me to really compound impact. And then the final thing I do is I tell you I'm an author. And the reason I tell you that is because I pour into content with my books. I use my coaching to drive my books. I mean, it all comes together. And I just want you to know that I think about this every day. So these are things that I not only think about, but I've used and helped thousands of people create some shifts. And so the last thing I would say is this. Just the 2 books that I have, a lot of times people ask about these things. The first one is Impressions. It's the power of personal branding. So if you're interested in values and building your brand and building a culture, this is a good book for people who want to do that. And then Make Your Mark is about goals, habits, things we're going to talk about today to help you increase your capacity. And you're going to see both of these intertwined throughout this presentation. And for those of you who are interested, you can pick up copies of this on Amazon, and that's just if you want to. If you don't worry about it. But I will say this, I'm going to do a giveaway, because people like giveaways. And I'm going to give away a signed copy of both of those things. And if you want to be entered in it, All you have to do is just on social media, just tell me your favorite lesson from this thing. It can be during the session, it can be after the session. Generally what I'll do is I'll look through them and I'll pick somebody tomorrow. So that to be entered, just make sure that after you do that, go ahead and tag me. My name is really kind of different, so you're not going to goof it up. If you search for Coyte, you're going to find Coyte. So it's just, my handle is that. So that's just to give you that idea. So here's the big idea that I have, is this. I think that most people are not living near their potential. And I think we see this with the most effective people on the planet. I think LeBron James is not at his potential, but I think he knows that. It's incredible what he's done with age. He gets better and better because he's pushing his boundaries. Oprah Winfrey, the same. And I have an idea that if you made some shifts in your life and you went out and you were consistent with these shifts, you could blow yourself away by what you're able to accomplish in your life in the next 6 months. Show of hands, how many people actually believe that? Okay. It's a pretty proactive group. I would say 40% raised their hands. Let me give you a flip here. How many people in the last week have been agitated or annoyed with somebody, whether in traffic, their partners, just anybody? How many people have been agitated with somebody in the last week? Yeah. I got some people with 2 hands up. If that's you and you're sitting next to your wife, you are not a smart person. Don't do that. Do you know what's fascinating? And I think you know where I'm going to go with this. Why is it a second ago I asked you whether or not you could go out and achieve some really cool things in your life, and maybe 40% of people raised their hands. But when I asked you if you were agitated, a negative thing, everybody raised their hands. Everybody's that way. And I say, I don't think that's right. I think that there should be more people, if you ask them that, will say, yeah, I think I can do that. And to be fair, you don't know me. I'm just a stranger who's standing on a stage and asking you a question. And you're like, why are you asking me that question? It's personal. But I think if you want to achieve something really extraordinary, if somebody ever asks you if you think you have that capacity, it has to be something like, I do. I know I can. I'm going to do that. And if you don't believe that, normally we have about 40% of people that raise their hands. And then honestly, even with those people, when they go home, if you set a big enough goal, I'm willing to bet at some point you're going to go, oh, that voice in your head's going to go, I don't know about you. That seems kind of big. I've learned that the most effective people on the planet have that same voice. They just get really good at quieting it. And for those of you, if you didn't raise your hand or you go home and you have doubts, and everybody will have doubts at some point, I just want to introduce you to somebody. This person's name is Kyle Maynard. And what I want to do in a second is I want to show you a video because I think it will help drive what we're doing in this presentation. But I want to show you a video of Kyle Maynard because I think it will change the way you're looking at this entire situation. And I'll ask a few of you what lessons we can learn from it, but I think this is an incredibly powerful video, and I hope you enjoy it.
When I first started climbing, I was so bad. I was so terrible, so slow. I'd tear my skin up all the time. And I was like, how the heck are we going to go and do Mount Kilimanjaro? 3 words, I don't know. Those 3 words, 3 of the most important words in my life. All discoveries happen from I don't know. My name is Kyle Maynard, and I have an extremely hard time saying what it is exactly that I do. I've been an athlete my entire life. Football to wrestling to weightlifting and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and now most recently taking on climbing some of the highest mountains in the world. I was born with congenital amputation, so it basically means my arms end at the elbows, my legs end at the knees. You know, I think some people, they look at me and maybe even feel sorry for me, but really, truthfully, my life doesn't look a whole lot different than yours. You know, I type on my computer the same way. You know, I use my phone just like anybody else. I'm on Bumble like any other single person my age. We got a match. My first experience with climbing, really anything of significance, was in a CrossFit competition in 2010. The first workout was you had to do a 1,000-meter row in this rowing machine and a sprint up Stone Mountain. Everybody else did it in maybe 25 minutes. It took me an hour and 46 minutes. I tore all the skin up on my arms, but I got to the top and I was like, wow, this is breathtakingly beautiful. And I told my friend that night, I said, I want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I don't know if I can, I don't know if I can't, but I do know that I want to try to figure it out. I want to go and find a way and get up there. There were a ton of challenges with getting into climbing, and the biggest one was the gear. I literally started with bath towels duct taped to my arms and my feet. I couldn't go to the store and buy a typical pair of shoes. We had to come up with a unique solution. Now to climb, I use a carbon fiber special custom shoe. I use those to bear crawl up Kilimanjaro. Then me and my team, we took on climbing Mount Aconcagua, the highest peak in South America. I felt my body was like in full shutdown mode. And it was brutal at moments, but it was breathtakingly beautiful. At the top of that mountain, you know, you can almost kind of make out and see like the curvature of the earth. I mean, it was just a moment I'll never forget. The reasons I climb aren't that different from other people. 95% of it does suck. I'm staring at the dirt. I'm not even able to go and talk to my friends and see the beautiful views unless I stop and sit down and look. But that 5% that doesn't suck, it's amazing. Getting into a place that there's no way my wheelchair could have brought me there, that's what I love. I'm not trying to live to be 1,000. Like I want to go out there and have my life mean something. When I've gotten down and I've looked at the mountain and I see what we've achieved, it's like, wow, maybe that was a really bad idea that we were there, but it was beautiful.
What does everybody think? It's pretty cool, right? So let me ask you this. You're going to help me transition. Tell me, what are some of the lessons that we can take from this? Does anybody have any ideas? Never let anything get in front of you, right? Here's a guy, perceived limitations, not letting obstacles get in his way. It's pretty incredible. Yeah, and there's another point right here, a really great point. A lot of times when we're limited by our minds. Here's a guy that could take, he has all kinds of excuses from the very get-go where he could say, you know what, I'm just going to go through life and have people take care of me, and he didn't do that. He had parents who told him, you can do what you want to do. And the only difference is that he doesn't place limitations on what he can do. He just goes out and he figures it out. So anybody else have anything? Yeah. Yeah, and limited by what other people tell us. But I think we could make a conclusion here together. I'm willing to bet that when he told people that he was going to climb that mountain or write his best-selling book or become an international speaker or become a UFC fighter, everything he's done, I bet he had people tell him, you can't do that. And I know you know what I'm talking about. Because everybody of you have set a goal at some point, and people have told you you can't do that, or you've told them and they've said nothing, which means the same thing. And most of us have backed off. He doesn't back off. And what I want to do is I want to go through and I want to explore a little bit more of this. But first, let's explore some of the reasons why. Okay, we've talked about mindset and different things, but here are some of the reasons why not you. And Russell Wilson has an amazing quote where he says, why not you, why not now, why not try? Right? And I love that quote. But there is a reason why people don't try, and it comes down to those limiting beliefs and the things that they have. But here's one of those reasons, right? The crazy clutter of living. You as coaches, you're athletes, we're busy, right? You know, you have your coaching. Coaching can be a full-time job, spend all your time and energy on it, and then you also have a normal job. You're teaching, that's a full-time job when you do it right. And then guess what? A lot of you have families. You're combining a lot of full-time jobs, and when you want to be extraordinary at those things or really good at those things, that takes a lot. And then guess what? We combine something else to this, which makes it the busiest time ever. This thing right here. I tell people this is both one of the most extraordinary inventions ever and one of the worst inventions ever. One of the coolest inventions ever, because like my grandma from Utah, she's like 87 years old. She's just chilling in the mountains of Utah. She's just on Facebook liking all my posts. He's just liking all my posts. The other day I wanted to know, like, who is reading my emails on performance and being better? I'm like, who are my 5-star people? Grandma from Utah, reading all my performance messages. I was like, what? I was like, good for Grandma. Grandma's getting after it, you know? And it's amazing for that. And it's also really cool because you can build a multi-million-dollar business from this phone if you have the right idea and you execute. But I'll tell you what, this thing right here is robbing more people of going out and achieving their goals and dreams than anything else. Why? Because one of the first things that we do in the morning, maybe not you, but I know it's me sometimes, is I pick this thing up. And I get on this thing, and the strangest thing happens. I get on here, and my intention is just to check one thing. I'm just going to get on email. Just to check, see if anybody wrote me about my talks. And all of a sudden, I see Amazon has tracked something. I want to buy some mountain gear, and so I go to Amazon, and I'm checking Amazon. I'm like, I'm not going to buy it. I just get pass right now. So I go over to Facebook, and Amazon has now an advertisement for me to come back and buy it. I go to Amazon, I buy it. I check my email. I go back. Oh, good, it's being sent. And then Facebook has now pulled me there. You see where I'm going? 20 to 25 minutes later, I don't know what just happened. I don't know what just happened. But there's a bigger thing at cost here. Not only does it pull us in, but most of the messages on here, if you're on social media, 90% of those things are negative. And one of the first things that we're doing in the morning is we're sending negative to our brains. It also teaches us instant gratification. And we're seeing this with our younger generations, middle generations, older generations. But crazy clutter of living is one. Number two is status quo. We live in an environment where people constantly are settling on a very consistent basis. And I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, I had all kinds of people telling me what I could and couldn't do. I was just very, very stubborn, and it pissed me off when they told me that I couldn't, so I went and did it anyways. But I don't know that that's always the way that it works. You get told enough that you can't do something, eventually we start to listen and we settle in our lives. But you know what? There's something bigger than all three of these things. Then the bigger thing is this: negative patterns, our choice. Because the reality is, with number one and number two, you don't have to pick your phone up in the morning. It doesn't have to dictate your pace. You can choose how you're going to use that thing. And number two, it doesn't matter if somebody tells you you can't do something. You say, I'm going to build my program into this, and they say, no, you can't. You don't need their permission. You don't need their permission. When it changes and when you allow them to dictate what you're going to do. But let me give you some numbers up here to illustrate this point. And I think this is going to blow you away. 40,000. This is the number of negative thoughts that most people have on a daily basis. A daily basis. 40,000. You're saying, that's not true. It's totally true. If you research this, most human beings have 50 to 60,000 thoughts. The thing is, most of it is subconscious and under the surface. But we've been trained through our phones and everything else to look for negative. 40,000 are negative. That's 12.8 hours in a day. That's 4,672 thoughts in a year. That's the number of hours, actually. And let me throw some more statistics up here to illustrate this point before we get to the good part. 66% of people are stressed, not just on Sunday, on a consistent daily basis. 54% are overwhelmed. They don't believe that they can do anything about it. They've just shut it down. That's half the people. That's 2/3 of people who are stressed. And I would say that correlates with being unhappy. And then this last one is crazy to me. Less than 10% of people have something in their lives that they're pursuing, that they're passionate about. I think this has to change. And why does this matter? Because it affects all of us. And if our patterns, you might say, well, I'm really positive. You might be more positive. But I promise you, if you track your thoughts, you're going to go, whoa, I had no idea that I have so many negative thoughts. And why does this matter? Because if you want to achieve something extraordinary in your life, and you're even wasting 20, 30, 40, or 50% of your thoughts on negative, you're limiting your potential. Because negative thoughts lead to negative emotions. Negative emotions wear you down, and you don't have any energy to do anything else. Now, if I just told you that, I might be the worst motivational speaker of all time, because you might be feeling a little bit bad right now. But I'm not going to do that. Because this is the part that I love. The part that I love is saying, okay, well, you go home and you identify, you say, yeah, I got some of these things going on. My athletes have some of these things going on. And I think in the middle of this is opportunity, because what if we could take those 40,000 negative thoughts and we could, what I call flip the script. We could turn them upside down. What if it was just 10% more, 20% more? And what if you could do this? Rather than thoughts like, oh, I don't want to be here, this stinks, you could instead be saying, how can I close the gap? That's a Kyle Maynard thing. How do I close the gap? What if you could do that? That shift would transform your life. And what if rather than those emotions that we talked about, stress, frustrated, overwhelmed, that we all have, you could instead be focused, motivated, and passionate every single day? It's totally possible. I've seen people make this shift in their lives in a period of about 6 weeks to 6 months with the right habits and patterns. They worked at it. And what if the final one, the biggest thing that every person on the planet at some point has with a big enough goal of thinking that they're not enough? And I have some of the best leaders I've ever seen, when you really talk to them, will say, I'm not sure if I can do that. You know, and what if instead of that, you could train your brain to look forward? Let me go back real quick. You could train it to just believe that it's only a matter of time. This is what high-level people do. They fill their brains with the right thoughts, and they get to that point. And I think that's possible for you. And all you have to do is just follow some simple steps. I want to tell you a quick story before we get into the core of this presentation. About 5 or 6 months ago, my son Carter, who was 6 years old at the time, went to his first swimming lessons. And I don't know about you, I was like Carter. When I was about to go to my first swimming lessons, I was kind of nervous. The water made me a little bit nervous. And I remember walking and feeling that way. And so as I'm going in, I look at Carter, I can tell that he's nervous. He really is. And then we go walking in, and the most energetic high school student I've ever seen in my life comes walking over. His name's like Trevor, and he's like, Carter, what's going on? How are you doing? Are you excited for swimming? No joke like that. Excited for swimming. Carter's like, yeah, I think I am. I think I'm a little excited for swimming. And his face starts to get excited, and he gets him in the water. In the Anacortes pool, they don't have a shallow part. They just have a platform. So he steps down into the water in this platform. It's about mid-waist. He's cool with this. He's ready to swim. And then Trevor says, off the platform, he says, he's got another platform set up 7 feet away or something like that. Maybe it was closer to 10. He says, I want you to jump off here and swim to the other side. A look of terror came over those kids' faces. My son is like, He moved closer to the back. He's like, that's not happening. And I'm over there going, yeah, this is not happening. There's no way he gets this guy to jump in the water and swim across it. And so I'm sitting there. I should be more encouraging, but I'm going, yeah, this never happened. So, because I'm a motivational guy, I'm supposed to go, he's going to do this. But I was like, he's not doing this. And then he goes walking over, and he picks up this yellow ball, and he starts to just throw it in the air like this. And I don't know if you've ever been around little kids, but if you take a little yellow ball and you start throwing up, what do you think they do? They go, ooh, that's a yellow ball. And they follow it up and down. And Trevor looks at me and says, do you think you can catch it? And they say, yeah, I think I can catch it. And he takes it and he throws it to them. And they catch it and they throw it back. And he does this with the whole group. He throws it and he catches it. And he throws it and they catch it. It's getting boring now, right? Move on. And then he says, do you think you can get this ball? And they're like, yeah, we can get that ball. And then he turns around and he throws the ball in the water and he points at my son and he says, go get it. My son jumps in the water. And I'm not going to tell you it was swimming. It was flailing. Flailing was what was happening. But he flails his way, gets the ball, hops up on the other side of the platform and looks at me and is like, and I was like, all right, good. This is good. And then I'm sitting there and I'm going, what just happened? What just happened? He just took a fear and made it disappear. And I'm like, that Trevor, that 17-year-old high school boy is Houdini. He's a magician. And then I started to think about this, and I thought, what if you could do this in other areas of life? Because I believe you can, and I think there are people that do this. And I thought, okay, let's take this back to negative thoughts, negative beliefs, fears, doubts. The most common thing stopping from people, what's the yellow ball? I said, what's the yellow ball? And what I realized is that there are yellow balls for this. Meaning, if I were to tell you to go out and say, hey, get rid of your negative thoughts, you would go out, and there'd be all kinds of things going on around you, and you would try to do it, and you'd likely get overwhelmed and exhausted. And you'd say, you know what, I'm not listening to that guy. I'm going back to my normal patterns. But what if you could just focus on something that was simple, and it would change the way that you think? And what I've come to realize is that is something that's possible. And I'm going to show you some of those things today. And this is what some of the most effective people on the planet do on a consistent daily basis. And I'm going to pop through these things, and then I'm going to come back through, and I'm going to go through each of them individually. The first thing they do is they do a morning growth routine. They get up in the morning, and they set the tone. Rather than picking up the phone, turning on the television, being overwhelmed by what they have in their day, they immediately take, and rather than pointing their brain to problems, they point it towards possible. They do simple activities in the morning to get their brain to say, hey, we're not going in this direction. Come on over here. We're going to go over here. That's the first thing they do. The second thing that they do, I've seen this really, really effective. High-level athletes, high-level coaches, high-level entrepreneurs, they implement an inspired value system. Rather than sitting around and saying, oh, I'm not this type of person, I can't do that, they immediately point their brain and they say, this is who I want to be. This is how I'm going to close the gap on my goals. And they do it every single day. That's the second thing they do. The third thing that they do is they have a priority performance planner. You all know about goals. I don't need to tell you a ton about goals, but they are very selective. The most effective people on the planet maybe have like 3 goals, and then they create a system to make sure that they're closing the gap on a daily basis. And the final thing, which I love to talk about, strive to see things differently. They don't want to be like everybody else. 97% of all people are walking around trying to fit in so they don't stand out, and really high-level people want to stand out. And I think you understand what I'm talking about here. So one of the first things I'll do real quick before we do that, we have to address this, I think it's important, is there's 2 things that I get from people when I tell them these habits. And if I can tell you these things, hopefully we can get around this. First thing people say is, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm just going to tell you the top CEOs in the world read 60 books a year, 1 hour a day. Some of the busiest people on the planet make sure that they're reading for an hour a day. Why? They know what's at stake. They know that they're developing their skill sets. They're focusing on positive. They know they're elevating their capacity. They just know, and you'll know if you follow these things. Okay, the second thing that I get people say is I tell them, hey, focus on your goals, just 5 minutes a day. People go, oh, 5 minutes a day, it's not going to do anything. Now, I want to show you some statistics to set the tone here. If you were to do these things, these are some of the things the most effective people on the planet do. We're going to cover some of these things, but the first one is just 5 minutes. You go, oh, 5 minutes can't make a difference. 5 minutes if you practice it every single day, 1,825 minutes, 30.4 hours. Almost a 40-hour work week, just 5 minutes a day. You can do the math here, but I'm going to tell you 10 minutes a day with these things like journaling and meditation, 3,650 minutes, 60.8 hours, 1.5 40-hour work weeks. Probably the single most influential thing you could do is to get up and read for 30 minutes. I started doing this about 7 years ago, radically transformed my entire life. But if you were to do just 30 minutes over the course of a year, it'd be 10,950 minutes, 182 hours, 4.5 40-hour work weeks. That's a month. When Oprah Winfrey talks about doing the little things, this is what she does. She gets up and she exercises. She gets up and she meditates. And here's the craziest thing, though. These things compound. It's just like money. When the market's good, they turn your brain in a different direction, and they compound and they turn into something really, really cool. Now, if you were to do all these, I once had a high school student say, what if I do all these? And I was like, wow, I've never had anybody ever ask me that, especially not a high school student. I'm like, sign that kid up. Hell, I want to work with this kid. I said, if you do all these things, it would be 21,900 minutes, 365 hours, 9 40-hour work weeks. You may not like my habits, but what I tell you is pick your habits then. Find your habits that can transform you. I have a good friend who's a leadership expert, and he says, pick your habits because your habits are going to form you. People all have habits. The problem is they've chosen the wrong ones, focusing on negative, maybe drinking alcohol, doing things that limit their capacity. Choose the right ones. And the final thing I'll tell you is Brian Tracy's an expert on goal setting, and what he says, and I can't show this on the screen, but I can tell you I believe this, and the people that I work with believe this, that if you do something like this for a span of 5 years, 10 years, you're saying it's a long time, well, time's going to pass anyways. You can become 1,000 times better in your lives. And I can't prove that, but I promise you this, if you do these things, I think you'll feel these things start to play dividends. So we just want to move through these things real quick. The morning growth routine. I love this one because it relates to athletics. And the reason why is this. You all know this, I think, but when I was competing at tournaments, local tournaments, high-level tournaments, in college, never once did I ever walk into an arena and just walk on the mat and compete. Why? Because my body wouldn't be ready then. My mind wouldn't be ready then. What do we do as coaches? We teach athletes to do a warm-up, to go through a routine, to get yourself mentally ready. You know what the most fascinating thing is? When I got done with athletics, I didn't have anything like that. And I thought, here I am rolling into my days, doing things that are more important than any wrestling match I ever wrestled, and I'm rolling into my days, and I have the wrong patterns. And this, the morning routine, became my warm-up. Want to be extraordinary at what I do, this is my warm-up to make sure that I do it. This small piece, If you'll just carve out 15 minutes early in the morning, 30 minutes in the morning, and you'll start to read every single morning, it'll change the way that your brain sees things. And it won't even take 2 weeks where all of a sudden you'll start to go, wow, I didn't realize how many negative thoughts I had. And gosh, this is kind of cool because my brain's starting to find more positive. That's a huge shift. That's flipping the script. And I'll tell you, some of you are saying, I don't want to get up early. I promise you, if you'll just take 30 days and you'll challenge yourself and say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to read, and I'm going to implement these other pieces, I don't think you'll ever go back to sleeping in again. I think it's that important. And I got challenged. I wish I could tell you I had world-class discipline, but I got challenged in a book. Robin Sharma talks about, there's all kinds of amazing leadership people that say, become an early riser. Get up at 5 a.m. And I was like, okay, I think I'll give that a shot, maybe. Yeah, I think maybe I'll give it a shot. And then I didn't do it. I did it some, and it totally worked, but I didn't follow through. And then I made a mistake, and I need to be careful that I tell you mistake, because the first decision was not a mistake. It was the second decision, because if I don't tell you that, you're going to go, this guy's kind of, I don't think I like this guy. The first thing I did is I had a baby girl, Maya. Maya was not a mistake. Maya was amazing. She came into the world, loved her like crazy. But her dad thought it would be a good idea. I'm her dad. Her dad thought it would be a good idea. I had to make that clear, by the way. Her dad thought it would be a good idea to get a husky puppy at the same time. It'll be so good. They're going to grow up together, and they're going to love each other. And by the way, 5 years later, it worked. My plan was good. But it wasn't when I first got them. Because you see, huskies are vocal dogs. They let you know when they want something. And I crate trained her, and that was amazing. It got her to not pee. But you know what? Every morning at 4 a.m., she got up in the morning, she would, oh. And I'm terrible at howling, by the way. You sense that, right? My wife looks at me, and she'd just gotten our daughter put to bed. She goes, you go take care of that right now. And I'm like, okay. So I go walking downstairs, and I am not happy, though. I'm up at 4 a.m. I am tired. This dang dog is causing me sleep, and I'm pissed at her. I let her out, and I'm a bad dog owner at this time, right? But I let her out. She goes to the bathroom. She comes back in, but she's not going back in the crate. She's not having it. She's done. And so here I am for about 5 or 6 days mad, and then I go, why not just give this a shot? I'm already up. Why don't I just read? Why not revisit my goals? Why not see my values? And that husky pup gave me the greatest gift I've ever had. She forced me to follow through. And it turned into this incredible thing. And so I look at that husky pup every day. I'm like, thank you so much. Changed my life. Made me a better dad. Made me a better coach. Made me a better parent. And it was just this. So I didn't have the self-discipline. I hope that you will. If not, get a husky pup and a baby at the same time. All good. All good. Don't do that. It really wasn't good. So the second thing is this. Implement an inspired value system. And one of the things that I did was this. I'm going to cut this short because I want to make sure we get through everything. But Dr. Stephen Covey, I was working on my PhD, finished my dissertation, hundreds of pages, worn out, needed a break, jumped up, walked around the room, and I wish I could tell you I did something like amazing, but I didn't. Nothing profound. I jumped back on and I got on Facebook. I started to scroll Facebook, and this time it did turn out to be profound because I found a video from Dr. Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That's who he is. A lot of you know him. And he was doing this video called The Funeral Exercise. And he said, I want you to close your eyes. I said, what the heck? I'll close my eyes. Let's see what happens. Close my eyes. And he says, I want you to imagine the most important people in your life at your own funeral. And he said, I want you to picture them one at a time, coming up on a stage, maybe like this. Hopefully you've had that kind of impact. And he said, I want you to imagine what they would say about you. But he said, here's the kicker. It can't be what you want them to say. It has to be what they would say if they were forced to tell the truth. Give the pros and cons. And I did this. Do you want to know the first 2 words that came out of my mouth? Oh, shit. I don't commonly cuss in presentations, but that was what it was because I thought, if my fiance at the time had to do this, she'd go up there and say, yeah, he's a good guy. He treats me pretty well. Go to the con side. He's a freaking jerk sometimes, right? He's a jerk. He's impatient. I was a wrestler. I was taught to break people. You can't break your wife. It doesn't work. Usually I end up broken in that situation. It's not good for anybody. And so immediately what I did, though, is I didn't stay there because that can make you feel like crap a little bit. I went and I said, what do I want it to look like? What do I want it to look like for my future kids? What do I want it to look like in my job when I'm working with people? And I wrote out these vision statements. You know, as a parent, as a husband, I want to love them unconditionally. I want to believe in them every single day. I want to create an environment where we just make moments together. And my kids grow up and say it was so incredible to be a part of this family and have parents. And that became a transformational turning point. But what I did from there is I looked at all my different vision statements in about 4 different areas, and I noticed there were trends. Love unconditionally, caring, energy. There were these things that were with all of them. I had to be these things to be able to realize that that became my values. I got up every single day. I started to get up every single day, part of my morning growth routine, and I started to see those every single day. Who do I want to be? This is who I want to be. Crazy transformational. I wish my wife was here. She would walk up. I wouldn't say she would say I was perfect. She'd be lying if she did, but she would probably tell you that some of these things are true. There's been a change. I'm better in all my roles because of this. I'm not perfect. I still make mistakes, but just seeing my values points my brain towards possible of what I can become as a human being. You can do the same. It's really amazing. The number 3 thing is a priority performance planner, and this is Richard Branson. Richard Branson has a rule where he only focuses on 3 things at one time. This is one of the most effective people on the planet. He's a little bit crazy, a little bit quirky, but man, he's done amazing things in his life, but he has that rule. And if you wanted to leave here, one thing you could totally do is to go home, and if 3 feels like it's too much, just write down 1, 2, or 3 goals that inspire you. Not what you think you should choose as a coach. When you sit down and you say, I would love to achieve this, when you're willing to fight for it, that's your goal. And then you get up in the morning and you get a booklet and you write your values down, and right below it, you go values first because you need to know the person you want to become. You go to goals next because your goals need to align with your values. Write your goals down every single day. But I'm about to tell you a secret, a Kyle Maynard secret. He didn't come up with it, but this is, I think, what he does. Is once you write that goal down, the next thing that you do is what I call the empowering how activity. And what you do is with that goal, you write it down, and that's profound in itself. When you write it down every single day, it creates a neural pathway in your brain. After 30 to 60 days, it becomes a habit. Your brain, when it becomes a habit, it looks for ways to do it. But in the meantime, ask yourself, how? Write the goal down and ask yourself how, and you're going, it doesn't seem that profound. It is. Why? Because most of us, when we set a big goal, we go home and go, oh, it seems too big. I don't know. I got all this time, these different things. I can't do it. When you just say how, and you point your brain to saying, okay, what can I do? Well, I can reach out to 5 people. I can create a value system for my program. It's crazy profound. You're teaching your brain to look for solutions and not reasons why you can't. And then the final thing, which I love, strive to see things differently. And this is the part, if I was to not prime you and get you ready for this, there's a very good chance if I were to say, getting up at 5 a.m., some of you went, ugh, too early. I have people that look at me and have disdain towards me when I tell them to get up that early. And some of you already do. So you're saying, okay, I'll do that. And I know a lot of people who get up that early and they don't do anything with it. So this is for you as well. But at 5 a.m., you have people, it's consistent. People go, oh, too early, man. That's a pain. I can't do that. I'm not a morning person. That's not true, by the way. That's what we learn in our society. But people who do this, they get up early and they go through this routine. They'll end up saying it's too important. I've seen it over and over, hundreds of times, people who do this. The second thing is, if I were to tell you to read for 30 minutes, we've talked about this, you say not enough time. Just try it. And I would challenge you, if you say you don't have time, watch your patterns. I bet you're probably on your phone, some of you, for 2, 3, 4 hours a day. There's 30 minutes there. I promise you that. There's something you're doing that you can replace it, and even that swap is crazy profound. Negative habit, go away. New habit, come on in. Efficiency level starts to rise a lot. But instead of that, I'm not missing this. Turn your brain towards this. And then the final thing, goals, big goals. People say, ooh, it's scary. So many people in our society say going for it is scary, and I don't think that's true. Train your brain instead to look at it and see it as exciting. And this next thing I'm going to tell you might be the most profound thing I tell you. And what it is this. Every single day in your key areas, you have a choice between obligation and opportunity. What most of us do, we don't know that we're making this choice. And I do this as a parent if I'm not careful. My kids come to me, they will when I get home tomorrow, and they'll go, I want to play dinosaurs. And my brain will go, I don't want to play dinosaurs. I don't like playing dinosaurs. And they'll go, do you want to jump on the trampoline, Dad? And I'm like, no, I'm tired. I got home at like 1 or 2 a.m. But you know what? When I get up in the morning and I go through my value systems and I tell myself to go out and to be that dad, when they ask me, and I have the right values, which is a value like making moments, he says, do you want to play dinosaurs? I go, no, but then I go make a moment. And I go play the dinosaurs. By the way, I don't play all day. I just, like, once a day is good. But I go play dinosaurs and I do it. I jump on the trampoline. It turns out to be amazing. But don't allow the most important parts of your life to become an obligation. Coaching should never be an obligation. It's an opportunity to change lives. If you go through and do these things, you'll always remember things are an opportunity. That's what will make you extraordinary in your role, because you'll capitalize every single day. The final thing I'll tell you is if you really love the idea of this, it can be overwhelming to go home and not know what to do next. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to help you, okay? If you were to leave here and you want to do this, one of the first things I would tell you is to do this. Week 1, start tomorrow. Don't wait till next week. Start tomorrow. Get up and read 30 minutes. You don't have a book? Well, then I can give you one, okay? I have an ebook that I just released. It's on this exact thing, and you can sign up for it. It will come to your email. Grab that thing and start reading it. If you have another book, great, read that. If you want to find another one and you want to suggest it, come see me. I'll give you one. There should be no excuse for this. Some people tell me, well, can I read any book? Unless you want to be a romance novel, don't pick up the romance novel, right? It needs to be something that increases your capacity, right? It needs to be something about, and people are slowly starting to laugh. My sense of humor is not strong, and so people kind of come on a little bit afterwards and give me a little courtesy. But to do that, right? Get up and read for 30 minutes a day and trust that it's going to turn into something different. What you can do during week 3 or week 2, add the values piece. You can start working on that now. Say, who do I want to be as a coach, as a parent? Create a list of values that inspire you and get yourself ready, because you're going to add those things. And here's the one tip I'll give you. You can't go and write your values down and then get up in the morning and go, be positive, go for it, be excited. And you're laughing, but people totally do this. Why? Obligation. He told me I should do it, so I guess I'll give it a shot. That's not what we're talking about. Here's why it's important, because when your brain gets up in the morning, it has some pretty good options. TV, sugar, caffeine, the most powerful one of all right here. It has this as an option. This gives it dopamine hits. If you don't get up in the morning, push those things off to the side and go through your values and say, today, I'm going to be an energy person. Today, I'm going to be a passion person. I'm going to give today. And I do this. I move. I stamp my feet if I have to. But I'm trying to say, hey, brain, look here. You got all this crap going on. I want you here right now. That's what will get your brain's attention. Week 3, we're going to add empowering how. Start to write your goals down. If you want to change the order of this, by all means, change the order of this. But add these every week. Write your goal down. Ask how. Take the one small thing, move on it, create momentum, and your brain will start to look for how rather than why you can't. And then the final thing, gratitude matrix. We didn't talk about this, but crazy profound. If one activity you can do in week 4, get up every morning, write down 3 things that you're grateful for. Some of the best coaches in the world right now have teams. Their teams do gratitude journals. If you just did this, it'll change your brain and what it looks for. But here's the 4th part. It's 3 by 1. Take the most challenging part of your life and ask yourself what you could be grateful for. Your brain will first go, nothing. Nothing. This is a pain in the butt. But if you keep looking, you'll teach your brain one of the most powerful things, to take your most challenging situations and see them as an opportunity. When you can do that, all of the anxiety and everything disappears, because you've taught your brain to look for good in every situation. Your results and everything will increase. It's incredible. And then, so if you want to get the book, though, you can just go on my main page. It's coytecooper.com. And all you got to do is go down below. I'm not selling you anything like that. You just come on here. You fill it out on the main page. They'll send it to you. This will get you started. And then if you sign up, if you follow up, I have some cards that I can give you. If you want to know more books, I'll give you more books to read as well to get you started. At some point, you're going to take it and you're going to run with it. But this gives you a starting point. So the final thing I want to do as we finish up is this. It's your choice. I've given you things that I believe in to my core. I know these things work. It's almost as if these things are law. If rather than looking at crap, you look for good. If rather than looking what you're not, what you want to be, what you don't want to happen, what you really want to happen, and you train your brain to go this way, you start to flip the script on the 80%. And then all of a sudden, you're 80% positive. Your entire life changes, but you have a choice, right? You're going to leave here today, and the first thing you can do is say, this guy's a little bit insane. I'm not going to listen to him, and that's your choice. I'm not even going to take it personally if you do that. But I hope you're going to do this. You're going to say, I'm intrigued. And if you're intrigued, you have 2 options. You can go, I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to try it. And you'll go like this, and you'll step in, and you'll start to do it. And then it'll get hard, and you'll go, nope, done. New Year's resolutions. You know, like 97% of people don't follow through, and I always tell the crowd, I'm pretty sure that's because a lot of people are drunk when they set those things. It's not a productive time to set goals. But people also do it after they're drunk, and most people don't follow through. And why? Because it wasn't a must. It was, I think I'll give it a shot. Whenever I tell people this and they go, I think I'll give it a shot, I'll go, okay, about 2 to 3 weeks, you'll be back where you are. It's like I'm a motivational person, right? But around January 1, when I go to the gym, I'm kind of pissed because I can't get to any of my equipment. And I should be encouraging, but I'm not, right? I'm embarrassed to say that. But I know by my birthday, January 21st, they'll all be gone. And I'll get my gym back. Now, I should be going in and talking to them about that. And maybe I'll make that my New Year's resolution, is to encourage them. But here's your second option, right here. You can say, I'm going to do this. This is happening. I'm going to make it a must. I know I want more in my life. I'm going to give this an absolute shot. For 30 to 60 days, I'm going to make it a must. I'm going to follow through. I'm going to see what happens. This is the burn the bridge, jump off. I'm here. There's nothing behind me. That's where incredible accomplishments come from. The final thing I'm going to tell you is this. This is Anson Dorrance up on the screen. He's a 21-time national champion coach at the University of North Carolina. He coached somebody called Mia Hamm. She's like the Michael Jordan of women's soccer. And I asked him, I said, Anson, what does it take to be extraordinary? And he said, you know, it takes all these things we talked about. First off, you have to have a desire to be different, right? You have to have something. And I think everybody on the planet has this. I don't think everybody got left out. I know at some point you've had a drive or an urge to go do something, but you have to have that. You got to set goals. When it gets hard, you have to follow through. And then he said something I'll never forget. He said, Coyte, if you don't get up every single morning committed to closing the gap on your goals, he said, there's nothing wrong with you. And I thought, that's not profound at all. This is one of the best coaches in the world. That's not profound at all. And then I learned to shut my mouth and let him finish. He said, Coyte, if you don't get up every single morning committed to closing the gap on your goals, there's nothing wrong with you. And then he finished. He said, you're just ordinary, and you need to get used to being ordinary. And I know some people, it rubs them the wrong way, but I don't think he meant it that way. I think he says this, when you get up every single morning, I think a lot of you know there's something you want to be doing, but a lot of times we ignore that. And when we ignore that, I'm not telling you your life's not going to be good, because that wouldn't be true. I'm saying you're taking a path that everybody's taking. The path on this side, the path that's busy. And I know for certain that when you ignore those urges and things that you want, at some point you're going to get to a point in your life where you don't like what it is, or you're not thrilled what it is. But there's another option. And this is your burn the bridge, because the other option that you have is to choose to take an entirely different path. It's to choose and point and say, that's my mountain. That's where I'm going. Am I saying it's going to be easy? Heck no. I'm not saying that. Because there's going to come a point where you commit and you start to climb that mountain and it starts to hurt. And there's going to be that voice in your head that says, oh, take a break. It's cool. Don't do it. Don't listen to that voice. Because on the other side of this is this extraordinary place where if you push and you break through the barriers, you fight through the criticism, all of a sudden you're going to arrive to a point in your life where the tree's clear and you step out and the view in your life is extraordinary. What I'm telling you is to fight for that point. Step up and lead your programs, lead your families, set in different standards, and just start by doing the little things, because what I want to do is I want to visit you in a year or to 2 years and see you and have you go, man, I love the changes I've made. I hope this is useful for you. Really appreciate your time. And here's just contact information. I'll be here again tonight for another talk, but if you need anything, there's my email, there's website, there's cell phone. Don't blow it up, but if you need to text me or something, feel free. And I also have some business cards that I can give to some of you as well, but appreciate it.
Do we need to bring the technology guy in? You think you're okay? I think we're good. Okay. We need the lights. Not the lights. Okay.
The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and in our communities. Students that participate in interscholastic activities attain higher grades, higher graduation rates, and higher wages. Responsible for the North-South All-Star Games, statewide Coaches Award Program, and providing multiple professional development opportunities for New Mexico's coaches. Be a great coach by coaching beyond the game. The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across